The coffee hit her white blouse like a brown waterfall. Madison Hayes stood frozen in the crowded hallway, her teaching jacket torn at the shoulder, warm liquid seeping through fabric. Tyler Morrison's laugh echoed off the lockers. His phone stayed raised, recording every second. "Oops," Tyler said, not even trying to hide his smirk. "Guess you should watch where you're going, Ms. Hayes." Derek Chen stood beside him, shoulders shaking with silent laughter. Students filled the hallway, some gasping, others pulling out phones. The morning bell hadn't even rung yet. Madison felt the coffee drip down her stomach. Her hands stayed steady at her sides. She looked Tyler straight in the eyes, and something in her gaze made his laugh falter for just a second. "This changes nothing," Madison said, voice calm as a lake before a storm. "Your essay is still plagiarized. Your grade is still 0. The hallway went silent. Someone dropped a textbook. It hit the floor like thunder. Tyler's face darkened. "You have no idea who you're messing with." Madison had started at Westfield High just last year. 28 years old. Fresh from Austin, carrying grief in her suitcase along with her teaching supplies. Her father's funeral was barely 6 months behind her. But she'd promised herself she'd make him proud. A former Marine who'd raised her alone, who'd spent evenings teaching her jiu-jitsu in their garage instead of watching TV. "Your mind is your strongest weapon," he used to say. "But sometimes you need your body as backup." She'd fallen in love with teaching immediately, the way students' eyes lit up during discussions of Steinbeck and Morrison. The thank you notes slipped under her door. The former dropouts who stayed after class just to talk about books. Madison Hayes wasn't just teaching literature, she was changing lives. Until yesterday. Until she'd noticed something familiar in Tyler Morrison's essay about The Great Gatsby. The sentences flowed too perfectly, the insights too polished. A quick search revealed the truth. 3 paragraphs lifted word for word from a scholarly article. No citation, no quotation marks. Just theft dressed up as original thought. She hadn't hesitated. Academic integrity wasn't negotiable. She'd marked the matching sections with her red pen, typed up an email to the Academic Honor Committee, and given Tyler Morrison exactly what he'd earned. 0 points, 0 tolerance. Tyler had seen the email notification during class. His face had gone from confident to confused to furious in 3 seconds flat. He'd pulled out his phone right there, in the middle of her lesson on symbolism. "Dad," he'd said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "We have a problem." Now, standing in the hallway with coffee staining her favorite teaching outfit, Madison understood this was bigger than one plagiarized essay. This was about power. The Morrison family had donated $500,000 to Westfield High last year. New football stadium. State-of-the-art computer lab. Principal Roberts had their photo in his office, shaking hands with Tyler's father at the ribbon cutting. "Ms. Hayes," a small voice came from behind. Sophia Chen, one of her best students, held out a pack of tissues. "Are you okay?" Madison accepted the tissues with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm fine, Sophia. Thank you." "No, she's not fine," Tyler announced to the growing crowd. "She's discriminating against student athletes. My dad's lawyers are going to eat her alive." Derek finally found his voice. "Yeah, everyone knows Ms. Hayes has it out for the football team. She probably planted that plagiarism thing." Madison dabbed at her blouse. Movements precise and controlled. Other teachers would have run to the bathroom by now. Others would have cried. But Madison Hayes wasn't other teachers. "Tyler," she said, voice carrying the same authority she used to quiet a classroom. "You have two choices. You can accept responsibility for your actions and learn from this, or you can keep digging this hole deeper. But either way, your grade stands. We'll see about that." Tyler's phone was already out, fingers flying across the screen. Madison knew what came next. She'd seen it before, in different schools, different forms, the parent complaints, the administrative pressure, the sudden concerns about her teaching methods. But she'd never seen it wrapped in such privilege, delivered with such confidence. By lunch, Tyler's version of events had gone viral on Snapchat. The video showed only the aftermath. Madison standing there covered in coffee, looking stern, while poor Tyler appeared shocked and apologetic. The caption read, "Teacher attacks student for accident. She's had it out for athletes all year. Time to fight back. #justice for Tyler. #Westfield strong." Madison sat in her empty classroom, eating a turkey sandwich she'd packed that morning when the world still made sense. Her phone buzzed with notifications she didn't check. The teacher's lounge would be buzzing with gossip. Better to stay here, in her sanctuary of books and inspirational posters. A knock interrupted her thoughts. Derek Chen leaned against her doorframe, trying to look casual. "Hey, Ms. Hayes," he said, voice dripping fake concern. "Just wanted to check if you're doing okay. That was pretty rough this morning." "I'm fine. Derek, thank you for asking." He stepped inside without invitation, running his finger along her bookshelf. "You know, the last teacher who had problems with Tyler, she ended up transferring to a school in Fort Worth. Smaller school, less prestigious." Madison took another bite of her sandwich. "Is that so?" "Yeah. And the one before that, he decided to pursue opportunities in the private sector. More money, less stress." Derek picked up her paperweight, a gift from her father. "Sometimes it's better to know when to fold. You know Tyler's dad. He kind of owns this town." "Derek," Madison said, setting down her sandwich, "are you threatening me?" "What? No." He put the paperweight down too hard. It cracked against the desk. "I'm just saying, Tyler gets what Tyler wants, always has, and his dad has connections everywhere. School board, city council, hell. Even the police chief brings his Porsche to Morrison's dealership." Madison stood up, moving with the fluid grace her father had drilled into her through years of training. Derek took an instinctive step back. "I appreciate your concern," she said, "but I have papers to grade. Please leave." Derek shrugged, heading for the door. "Your funeral, Ms. Hayes, but don't say nobody warned you." After he left, Madison picked up the paperweight. A small chip had broken off the corner. She ran her thumb over the damage, remembering her father's hands guiding hers through defensive positions. "Never let them see you sweat," he'd say. "Fear is just excitement without breath." Her phone rang. Principal Roberts. "Madison, could you come to my office? We need to discuss this morning's incident." The walk to the principal's office felt like crossing a minefield. Students whispered as she passed. Some offered sympathetic smiles, but more avoided eye contact. The security camera in the main hallway had a "out of order" sign taped over it. How convenient. Principal Roberts sat behind his mahogany desk. Fingers steepled. He was 55, silver-haired, with the practiced smile of a politician. The Morrison family photo watched from its gold frame. "Madison, please sit." He gestured to the chair across from him. "I heard about this morning. Very unfortunate." "Yes, having coffee thrown on me was unfortunate." Thrown is a strong word. Tyler says it was an accident. And the security footage would show exactly what happened, if it was working. Roberts sighed. The sound of a man carrying heavy burdens. Madison, you're an excellent teacher. Your students love you. Their test scores have improved dramatically, but we need to consider the bigger picture here. The Morrison family has been very generous to our school. Their contributions have helped countless students. We're planning a new science wing next year, thanks to their pledge. Madison felt her jaw tighten. Are you suggesting I change Tyler's grade? I'm suggesting you reconsider your approach. Perhaps Tyler deserves a chance to rewrite the essay, show some understanding. After all, these kids are under tremendous pressure. College applications, sports, social media. Sometimes they make mistakes. Plagiarism isn't a mistake, it's a choice. Roberts leaned back, chair creaking. Madison, I'm trying to help you here. The Morrisons have already contacted the superintendent. They're talking about bias against student athletes, unfair grading practices. These are serious allegations. Based on what evidence? Based on the fact that their son, a straight-A student, suddenly receives a 0 in your class. Look, I know Tyler can be challenging, but his father carries a lot of weight in this community. Is this really the hill you want to die on? Madison thought of her father's funeral. The flag folded into a perfect triangle. The words the chaplain spoke about integrity and honor. She'd promised herself she'd live up to his example. Yes, she said. It is. Roberts rubbed his temples. I was afraid you'd say that. Madison, I like you. I really do. But I can't protect you if you insist on this path. The school board meets next week. Budget cuts are coming. Positions will be eliminated. The newest teachers are always the first to go. Is that a threat? It's reality. We all have to play the game sometimes, even teachers. Madison stood up. Is there anything else? Just think about it. Tyler's a senior. He'll be gone in 8 months. Is it worth risking your career over one essay? She left without answering. In the hallway, she passed Mrs. Peterson, who'd taught here for 20 years. The older woman grabbed Madison's arm gently. Honey, she whispered. I saw what happened this morning. That boy's rotten to the core, but his daddy's worse. Be careful. I can take care of myself. Mrs. Peterson's eyes were sad. That's what Sarah said. She taught math here 3 years ago, gave Tyler's older brother a C+. The Morrisons made her life hell until she quit. Now she works at Starbucks. The rest of the day passed in a blur. Madison taught her classes, discussed metaphors and themes, pretended not to notice the whispers and stares. Tyler sat in the back of her 6th period class, scrolling through his phone openly. She didn't call him out. Pick your battles, her father would say, but never give up the war. After school. The parking lot emptied quickly. Madison stayed late grading papers, trying to focus on other students who actually cared about learning. When she finally packed up, the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. Her car sat alone in the far corner of the lot. She'd parked there this morning, back when her biggest worry was making copies before first period. Now, walking across the empty asphalt, she felt the first prickle of unease. Ms. Hayes, she turned. Tyler Morrison stood by the entrance, no longer in his letterman jacket. He wore a black hoodie now, hood up despite the warm evening. Derek flanked him, along with 2 other football players she recognized but couldn't name. Tyler, she said, hand tightening on her bag strap. Can I help you? Yeah, actually. He walked closer, his crew spreading out in a semicircle. You can help by fixing my grade. We've already discussed this. The grade stands. See? That's where you're wrong. Tyler stopped 10 feet away, close enough that she could see his pupils dilated in the dim light. My dad called the superintendent. Turns out, there might be some irregularities in your teaching certification. Something about credits from Texas not transferring properly. Madison's blood chilled. Her certification was completely legitimate. But she knew how these games worked. Enough lawyers asking enough questions could make anyone look suspicious. That's ridiculous, she said. Is it because my dad's lawyers don't think so? They're very thorough. They'll dig into everything. Your background, your father's military record. That discharge might not have been as honorable as you think. The words hit like a physical blow. Her father had served with distinction for 20 years. His honorable discharge was one of her most precious documents, framed on her apartment wall. "How dare you?" she whispered. Tyler smiled. The expression cold. "I'm just saying. Things can get messy. Or they can stay simple. Change the grade. Apologize for the misunderstanding. Everyone moves on happy." "Never. Never's a long time, Ms. Hayes." He stepped closer. Derek and the others moved too, tightening the circle. "You know what your problem is. You think this is about right and wrong, good and evil, but it's not. It's about power. And my family has it. You don't." Madison's training kicked in, body automatically shifting into a defensive stance, weight balanced, hands free. 3 exit routes mapped in her peripheral vision, but she kept her voice steady. "Step back, Tyler." "Or what? You'll give me another 0. He laughed, the sound sharp in the empty lot. "You can't hurt me with grades anymore, but I can hurt you. Your job, your reputation, your future. All it takes is one phone call from my dad. Your father can't change the truth. All the truth." Tyler pulled out his phone, started recording. "The truth is whatever we say it is. Watch this." He stepped forward aggressively. Madison held her ground. "Why are you discriminating against me?" Tyler said loudly, playing for the camera. "I've done nothing wrong." "Tyler, stop this. See how she's backing away," Tyler narrated, even though Madison hadn't moved. Classic signs of guilt. She knows she's wrong. Derek joined in. "Yeah, and she's been drinking? I can smell it." Madison's stomach turned. She hadn't touched alcohol in years, not since her father's diagnosis. But the camera wouldn't capture that. It would only show what Tyler wanted it to show. "This is pathetic," she said. "Even for you." Tyler's face darkened. The phone lowered. For a moment, the mask slipped, and she saw the real boy beneath. Spoiled, angry, dangerous. Pathetic. He moved closer, close enough that she could smell his expensive cologne mixed with energy drink. "You know what's pathetic? A nobody teacher from nowhere, Texas, thinking she can come here and disrespect me, disrespect my family." "I'm not disrespecting anyone. I'm holding you accountable." "Accountable?" Tyler laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Let me tell you about accountability. My dad owns 6 dealerships. He employs 300 people. He pays more in taxes than you'll make in a lifetime. That's accountability. What do? Give grades to kids who'll forget you exist the second they graduate." The words stung because there was a grain of truth in them. Teachers rarely saw the long-term impact of their work. But Madison thought of Sophia Chen, of the quiet kids who found their voices in her classroom, of the thank you notes she kept in her desk drawer. "I teach," she said simply. I help students become better thinkers, better writers, better people. Better people. Tyler was in her face now, close enough that Derek looked uncomfortable. Is that what you think you're doing? Making me a better person by humiliating me? You humiliated yourself when you stole someone else's work. The shift happened fast. Tyler's hand shot out, shoving her shoulder, not hard enough to knock her down, but enough to make her stumble. The other boys tensed, ready for action. Madison's muscle memory took over. Her father's voice echoed in her mind. Distance is your friend. Control the space. Make them come to you. She stepped back, hands up in a non-threatening gesture that could quickly become defensive. That's assault, she said calmly. Walk away now, and we can pretend this didn't happen. Assault. Tyler laughed. I barely touched you. Besides, who's going to believe you, Derek? Did you see me assault anyone? Nope, Derek said. I saw Ms. Hayes get aggressive, though. Very unprofessional. The other two nodded along. Phones already out, ready to record whatever narrative Tyler wanted. This was the game. Madison finally understood. It wasn't about grades or plagiarism. It was about breaking her, making her bend, teaching her who really ruled this small kingdom. I'm leaving, she said, moving toward her car. This conversation is over. Tyler sidestepped, blocking her path. It's over when I say it's over. The parking lot suddenly felt very empty. The school windows were dark, no witnesses except Tyler's loyal friends. Madison's hand found her phone in her pocket, finger hovering over 911. Let me pass, she said. Make me. The words hung in the air like a challenge. Madison could see the future branching in front of her. One path led to backing down, changing the grade, keeping her head low until Tyler graduated. Safe. Easy. Everything her practical mind screamed for her to do. The other path? She thought of her father, teaching her throws in their garage. Sometimes, sweetheart, the only way out is through. But you choose your moment. You wait for them to overcommit. Then you use their force against them. Tyler mistook her silence for fear. He grew bolder, pushing her again, harder this time. See, you're weak. All you teachers are weak, hiding behind your rules and your grade books. But out here in the real world, money talks. Everything else is just noise. Madison's foot placement shifted subtly. Her weight centered. She was no longer a teacher in a parking lot. She was a Marine's daughter who'd spent 18 years learning that strength wasn't about size or money or who your daddy was. Last chance, she said quietly. Walk away. Tyler's grin widened. Or what you'll throw me, like in your little karate movies. This isn't a dojo, Ms. Hayes. This is real life, and in real life. People like me win, and people like you. He pushed her again, both hands this time, putting his whole body into it. The moment his weight committed forward. Madison moved. Her hands found his wrists. Her hip turned. Her father's voice guided every movement. Tyler's eyes widened as his feet left the ground. As the world spun around him. As gravity became his enemy instead of his friend. Tyler's back hit the asphalt with a sound like wet thunder. The impact knocked every molecule of air from his lungs. For 3 seconds, he lay there, staring at the Texas sky, trying to understand how it had ended up beneath him instead of above. Madison's training had taken over completely. The hip throw was textbook perfect, using Tyler's own aggressive momentum against him. But she didn't stop there. As he gasped on the ground, she flowed into position, applying a gentle but firm arm lock that kept him pinned without causing injury. "Don't move," she said, voice steady as her grip. "You'll hurt yourself." Derek stood frozen, mouth open like a fish out of water. The other two football players backed away, phones forgotten in their hands. Nobody had expected this. The script was supposed to be simple. Intimidate the teacher, make her cave, win like always. "Get off me," Tyler wheezed, trying to buck against the hold. The movement sent sharp pain through his shoulder, making him yelp. "I said don't move." Madison adjusted her position slightly, taking pressure off his joint. Even now, even after everything, her teacher's instinct was to protect, not harm. Deep breaths, in through your nose, out through your mouth. "You're crazy." Tyler's face was red, whether from exertion or embarrassment. "You attacked me, Derek. Call the cops. Call my dad." Derek fumbled for his phone, hands shaking. Tyler, you pushed her first, man." "Shut up and call my dad." Madison maintained the hold, her mind racing. She knew how this looked. Teacher restraining student in empty parking lot. It didn't matter that he'd assaulted her first, that she'd acted in self-defense. The optics were terrible. But something strange was happening. Instead of anger, she felt calm, like her father was right there with her, his steady presence guiding her actions. "Control the situation," he'd always said, "but control yourself first." "Tyler," she said, using the same tone she used for struggling students. "I'm going to let you go, but you need to stay calm. Can you do that?" "Screw you. My dad's going to destroy you. You're done. You hear me? Done." Derek had his phone to his ear now. "Mr. Morrison, it's Derek. You need to come to the school, right now. It's about Tyler." Madison could hear the tinny sound of shouting through the phone. Derek winced, holding it away from his ear. "No, sir. He's on the ground. The teacher. Yes, sir. That teacher? It's hard to explain. Just please come." 5 minutes. That's how long Madison held Tyler in that parking lot, keeping him immobilized but unharmed while he cycled through threats, pleas, and curses. The other boys had retreated to the fence, unwilling to help but unable to leave. Cars passed on the distant street, oblivious to the drama playing out in the school lot. Then she heard them, tires squealing, engine roaring. A black Escalade burst into the parking lot, taking the speed bump so fast its undercarriage scraped. The vehicle hadn't even fully stopped before Mr. Morrison erupted from the driver's seat. He was everything Tyler would become in 20 years. Same broad shoulders, same aggressive stance, same eyes that saw the world as something to be conquered. But there was something else, too, buried deep. Something Madison recognized from parent-teacher conferences with struggling kids. Fear dressed up as anger. "Get your hands off my son!" Madison released the hold and stepped back smoothly, hands visible and non-threatening. Tyler scrambled to his feet, stumbling toward his father. "Dad, she attacked me out of nowhere. I was just talking to her about my grade and she went crazy." Mr. Morrison's face was purple with rage. He pointed a thick finger at Madison. "You're finished. Do you understand me? I'll have your teaching license revoked. I'll sue you into bankruptcy. I'll make sure you never work in education again." "Mr. Morrison," Madison said, surprised by how steady her voice sounded. "Your son assaulted me. I defended myself. There are witnesses." "Witnesses?" Morrison turned to Derek and the others. "You boys see this woman attack my son. Derek shifted uncomfortably. The other two looked at their shoes. The silence stretched like taffy. "I asked you a question," Morrison barked, using the same tone that probably terrorized his employees. Derek started, then stopped. His phone was still in his hand, still recording. "Mr. Morrison, maybe we should look at the video." "What video?" Tyler's eyes widened. "Derek, shut up." But Derek was already swiping through his phone. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was fear of being caught in a lie. Or maybe, just maybe, it was a 17-year-old kid finally seeing his friend's behavior clearly. "I was recording when—" Derek held up the phone. "You can see everything." The parking lot fell silent, except for the ticking of the Escalade's cooling engine. On the small screen, the truth played out in harsh digital clarity. Tyler pushing Madison. Her warnings. Him pushing harder. The throw that followed. Clean and defensive. Mr. Morrison's face went through several transformations. Rage to confusion to something that might have been recognition. He looked at his son. Really looked at him. Maybe for the first time in years. "You lied to me." "Dad, you lied. Again." Morrison's voice had gone quiet, which was somehow worse than the shouting. "Just like with the Anderson kid. Just like with Ms. Rodriguez. Just like—" He trailed off, lost in some private memory. Madison watched as something shifted in his expression. The anger was still there, but layered now with exhaustion and maybe even shame. "Mr. Morrison," she said gently, "your son plagiarized an essay. When I held him accountable, he tried to intimidate me. This escalation, it needs to stop." Morrison looked at her, seeing her clearly for the first time, not as an enemy or an obstacle, but as a young teacher standing alone in a parking lot, coffee stains still visible on her blouse, holding her ground against impossible odds. "Tyler," he said, not looking at his son, "get in the car." "But Dad—" "Now." Tyler slunk toward the Escalade, shooting poisonous looks at everyone. Derek and the others scattered like roaches when the light comes on, suddenly remembering urgent appointments elsewhere. Morrison stood there a moment longer, seeming to wrestle with something. "Ms. Hayes," he finally said, My son has issues. His mother and I divorced 3 years ago. She said I was teaching him the wrong values, that I was creating a monster. I told her she was being dramatic." Madison said nothing, sensing this was a confession that needed space. "I was bullied as a kid," Morrison continued, the words coming out rusty, like he'd never said them aloud. "Small, weak, poor. I swore my kids would never feel that way. So I gave them everything: money, power, protection from consequences." He laughed bitterly. "Turns out their mother was right. I didn't raise strong kids. I raised bullies." "It's not too late," Madison said. "Tyler's young. He can learn. But only if someone finally tells him no and makes it stick." Morrison nodded slowly. "The plagiarism. How bad was it? 3 full paragraphs, word for word." "And you have proof. Everything's documented." He sighed, suddenly looking every one of his 50-something years. "Keep the 0. I'll deal with Tyler." He turned to go, then stopped. "Ms. Hayes, I'm sorry. For all of it. I'll make sure the superintendent knows this was Tyler's fault. All of it." Madison watched the Escalade pull away, Tyler's sullen face visible through the tinted windows. Her hands were shaking now, adrenaline finally catching up. She made it to her car, locked the doors, and sat there for 10 minutes, just breathing. Her phone buzzed. A text from Principal Roberts. Emergency meeting. My office, 7 a.m. tomorrow. She knew what was coming. The full court press. The school district's lawyers would be there. Maybe the union rep if she was lucky. They'd want her version of events. And then they'd want her to go away quietly. A transfer to another school. A letter in her file. The path of least resistance for everyone. But Madison Hayes was her father's daughter, and Marines didn't retreat. They just advanced in a different direction. That night, she made calls. To the 3 teachers who'd left because of Tyler. To parents of students he'd bullied over the years. To a friend from college who worked at the teachers' union. By midnight, she had statements, documentation, and a lawyer who worked pro bono for educators. The 7 a.m. meeting was standing room only. Principal Roberts behind his desk. The superintendent via video call. 2 district lawyers who looked like they'd rather be anywhere else. And surprisingly, Mr. Morrison himself. Before we begin, Morrison said, standing up, I need to say something. My son has been terrorizing this school for 4 years. I enabled it, protected him from consequences. Last night, I watched video of him assaulting Ms. Hayes, who showed more restraint than I would have. If this district takes any action against her, I'll personally fund her wrongful termination lawsuit. The lawyers exchanged glances. The superintendent's face was frozen on screen, processing this unexpected development. Furthermore, Morrison continued, I'm withdrawing my donation pledge for the new science wing. That money will go to establishing a district-wide anti-bullying program, one with real teeth, and my son will be its first test case. Principal Roberts looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Mr. Morrison, surely we can discuss this privately. No more private discussions, no more backroom deals. Ms. Hayes did what none of us had the courage to do. She stood up to my son. She stood up to me. And she was right. Madison felt the room's energy shift. The lawyers were already packing their briefcases. The superintendent was nodding slowly. The crisis was diffusing itself, but not in the way anyone had expected. Ms. Hayes, the superintendent said through the screen, I've reviewed the incident reports. Multiple witnesses confirm you acted in self-defense. No disciplinary action will be taken. In fact, I'd like to discuss having you lead professional development on classroom management and conflict resolution. After the meeting, Madison found herself alone with Morrison in the hallway. He looked older in the morning light, worn down by revelations he'd been avoiding for years. Tyler's mother wants him to live with her in Colorado, he said. Finish senior year there. Fresh start. I fought it for years, but maybe it's what he needs. Change is hard, Madison offered, but sometimes necessary. You remind me of her, Morrison said suddenly. Tyler's mother. She stood up to me too. I just wasn't ready to listen. He pulled out a business card. My personal cell. If anyone gives you trouble about this, call me. I know I've been part of the problem. Let me be part of the solution. Madison took the card, noting the irony. Yesterday, this man's influence was her biggest threat. Today, it was her shield. Word spread through Westfield High like wildfire. By lunch, 3 different versions of the parking lot incident were circulating, each more dramatic than the last. But the truth was dramatic enough. Ms. Hayes had faced down Tyler Morrison and won, not with violence or threats or daddy's money, but with principles backed by training. Her afternoon classes were different. Students sat straighter, listened closer, And when she assigned an essay on integrity in literature, nobody complained. Sophia Chen stayed after class, eyes shining. "Ms. Hayes, what you did, standing up to Tyler, it means a lot, to all of us who've been afraid of him. I just did my job, Sophia." "No," the girl said firmly, "you did more than that. You showed us it's possible to fight back, the right way." That evening, Madison drove to the cemetery where her father rested. She sat by his headstone, telling him about her day, about the boy who thought money meant might, about the father who finally saw clearly, about the small victory that felt bigger than it was. "You were right, Dad," she whispered. "Sometimes you do have to fight." But the real victory isn't in the throwing. It's in knowing when to let go. The next week brought changes. Tyler Morrison quietly withdrew from Westfield High. His father established the Morrison Foundation for Academic Integrity. Principal Roberts announced early retirement. And Madison Hayes started teaching self-defense to other educators, sharing her father's wisdom with those who needed it. But the biggest change was in her classroom. Students who'd been coasting started working. Discussions grew deeper. The message had spread without being spoken. Ms. Hayes's class was a place where actions had consequences, where integrity mattered, where everyone was accountable regardless of their last name or bank account. 3 months later, Madison received a letter, Colorado postmark, Tyler's handwriting. Inside, a single paragraph. "Ms. Hayes, I hated you for what happened. But my mom made me see a therapist here, and I'm starting to understand. I was becoming someone terrible. Maybe I already was. I'm sorry for everything. I'm trying to be better. Thank you for being the first person to tell me no and mean it. Tyler Morrison." She kept the letter in her desk drawer next to the thank you notes from students. It wasn't perfect. Tyler had a long road ahead, but it was a start. On the last day of school, Madison packed up her classroom, preparing for summer break. Her white blouse, a new one, coffee stain-free, was crisp and clean. As she walked down the hallway, other teachers nodded with respect. Students waved and smiled. She'd survived her trial by fire and emerged stronger. At the main entrance, she found a package waiting. Inside, a brand new leather jacket and a note to replace the one Tyler ruined. "Thank you for teaching my son accountability. Better late than never. James Morrison." Madison smiled, thinking of her father, of the lessons he'd taught her in their garage dojo. Strength wasn't about domination. It was about standing firm when everything pushed you to bend. It was about protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. It was about knowing that sometimes the best throw is the one that helps someone else find their footing. She walked to her car, jacket over her arm, head high. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new students, new battles. But Madison Hayes was ready. She was a teacher, a warrior, a Marine's daughter, and she never backed down from bullies. 1 year later, Madison stood in the gymnasium, watching 30 teachers from across the district practice defensive stances. The self-defense program she'd started had grown beyond Westfield High. What began as informal sessions in her classroom was now an official professional development course, funded by the Morrison Foundation. "Remember," she called out, "the goal isn't to fight. It's to create space and get to safety. But sometimes, knowing you can defend yourself changes everything about how you carry yourself." Mrs. Peterson, the veteran teacher who'd warned her about Tyler, was there in the front row, gray hair pulled back in a ponytail, moving through the exercises with surprising grace. Principal Roberts's replacement, Ms. Washington, participated too, setting an example that teacher safety mattered. After class, as teachers filed out, chatting and laughing, Madison noticed a young woman hanging back, early 20s, nervous energy, clutching a folder. "Can I help you?" Madison asked. "Ms. Hayes, I'm Sarah Chen. I used to teach math here 3 years ago." Madison recognized the name immediately. The teacher who'd given Tyler's older brother a C+ and paid the price, the one now working at Starbucks. "I heard about what you did," Sarah continued, "standing up to the Morrisons, and I heard about this program. I was wondering—" She took a breath. "I want to come back to teaching, but I'm scared. Not of the kids, but of the parents, the politics, the bullying." Madison saw herself in this young woman, saw all the teachers who'd been driven away by fear and intimidation. "Fear is normal," Madison said, "but you don't have to face it alone. Not anymore." She handed Sarah a flyer for the next training session. As the woman left, hope replacing despair in her eyes, Madison thought about ripples in water. One stone creates circles that spread outward. Touching shores the thrower never sees. Her phone buzzed. A message from Tyler Morrison in Colorado. "Got into college, real essay this time. Majoring in education. Maybe I can make up for the damage I did. Thank you for stopping me before it got worse." Madison smiled, pocketing the phone. Outside, the Texas sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of courage and possibility. Somewhere, her father was proud, and somewhere else, another teacher was learning to stand tall. The fight for integrity never really ended. But now, at least, nobody had to fight alone.